And welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, Gungans, droids, catty-moody-looking Conans, and all of you witches in a whole other galaxy to today's video, where we are going to be talking about the Great Mothers. And as Tony the Tiger said, they're great! And it's so great. Yesterday when we were streaming the Great Mother testing on the go, we got the long-awaited, the long-eluded 330 shard drop. Holy cow, what a day it was. And let me tell you, if there was going to be a character to get a 330 shard drop for, it's these babies right here. We're going to go over some gameplay, highlight everything we kind of discovered in our first day of testing. These are called an Elite Marquee, first of its kind. Capital Games told us a couple months ago there's supposed to be Gungan level viability. Yeah, this is a big deal team. It's basically a legendary type of team, but without having to do a legendary event. Really big deal. When these guys go free to play, you probably want to farm them right away at that point. So let's go ahead and start rolling some gameplay, all that fun stuff. I had a ton of questions yesterday during stream. How do you mod these guys? Everyone's really interested in these girls right here. Here's how I'm modding them. Lots of speed, lots of health. You want these girls to be super thick, and you want them to be fast, getting crazy hot plays. The protection disruption, it's going to be an absolute mad lad, and you want them to get so many turns where they're going to be reducing the max health of the enemy a ton. So speed, health, pretty straightforward way that we're going to mod these girls here. And with that said, let's just start rolling the gameplay in case you guys missed it. I can't, seriously, I can't explain, I can't relay just how awesome it was to get a 330 shard drop of these girls right here. So what's this team's gimmick overall? The big team gimmick, now that we're able to see Morgan Elsbeth with her official counterpart, the Great Mothers, we're seeing that this team is all about literally taking something that we take for granted, protection, and literally using it against the enemy, where we're going to see gameplay of us being able to just make Gungans like a nothing team. Like, they look like they're trash at this point. It's crazy. So we see this in this battle too, General Anakin Skywalker. General Anakin Skywalker, we're going to see the Great Mothers constantly apply Doomed on General Skywalker, which keeps putting him down. He really gets the opportunity to stay up in battle, and this allows us to just kind of pick away at the clones. So in order to really understand what to use, because there's these two effects, Doomed and Bless, it's really important you know how to use them. It took me a few moments to kind of really get the grasp on how to use these status effects appropriately inside the Great Mothers kit. Pretty much straight from the get-go, you're going to be applying Doomed to one of the enemies out there. And the reason why you want to make sure you're using Doom in the most appropriate fashion is because when you get Doomed out there, it pretty much nullifies their protection. As you can see through the threads of destiny, that ability right there, with the ability with Doomed, oh boy, protection's disabled, you can't gain stealth, and you lose 20% max health whenever this character ends their turn until the end of the encounter. We have other ways of reducing max health, as we're going to see as well. But you got to keep in mind, Doom does not really work all that great up against Galactic Legends, so when you're using this, you want to make sure you don't throw it on Rey. We're going to see a little glimpse of gameplay towards the end of things that didn't really work well for the Great Mothers. Yeah, Galactic Legends, it's a big waste of Doom. And the problem is you can't really get rid of Doom until the enemy, like, dies off. So make sure you pick the appropriate target to apply Doom. Because if you pick a bad one, you're kind of stuck with them. Because once the enemy dies of Doomed, then the Great Mothers get another turn, and they can pick another character to apply Doomed on. So it's really important that opening play is incredibly important. And the great thing is, up against light side leaders, the Great Mothers can target pretty much anyone on the field. You can ignore taunt. So, for example, up against Master Kenobi, you can apply Doom over on Commander Ahsoka Tano. And yes, it's looking like pre-Omicron, pre-Datacron, they got some anti-Kenobi stuff baked into their kit where we were able to do some good work up against Master Kenobi. I'm assuming with the Omicron, it's going to be a lot easier. And as you just saw, with the Datacron, it's a dunk on Master Kenobi. Very, very simple. And here's where you really see the Doomed get into full swing, immediately disabling the protection of the enemy. And what are Gungans all about? They're about taking all their health and pretty much triple downing and putting it into protection. And, well, if you take away the protection, what are Gungans? They're nothing. Their max health is absolute trash because they converted it all into their protection pool. And here you see, basically, without even trying, don't even need to bother with the generator. Just go ahead, disable the protection, everyone. Then you can deal with Jar Jar at the very end. My mind was blown seeing the power of Doomed in this scenario. So this is the biggest thing Make sure you're using Doom appropriately. Don't target Galactic Legends, it seems like. Target the people that are in your way. We have some gameplay where we're going to take down Jabba the Hutt, for example. You can't ignore Chrysanthemum, but even so, being able to disable Chrysanthemum's protection and then start reducing his max health, because the basic ability, Energy Threads as well, is able to allow us to reduce the enemy's max health by 20%. So you're going to be able to quickly chip through Chrysanthemum. Doomed enemies can't be revived, so Chrysanthemum can't revive. Then you just eat up the entire enemy team. Man, this Queen Amidala battle is also pretty insane. Just being able to target Queen Amidala. And the other good thing, as we're going to talk about, Blessed allows your character that you blessed to target the character that has Doomed. So if you're able to put Doomed on Queen Amidala, you can just target Queen Amidala, delete her out of the battle. It's a very powerful mechanic, which again, I'm wondering how this is going to do on defense. I can't endorse how good the Great Mothers are going to be on defense, because if you use Doom inappropriately, which I purposely did against the Finn team towards the end, they kind of suck. I don't know if maybe that's a little too harsh of a thing, but if you don't Doom the right person, it makes the battle so much more complicated. But let's talk about the other stat effect that is incredibly important. Let's talk about Bless. So at the very beginning, you're going to Doom someone, and you're also going to bless someone. Now, Bless is very important. With the Bless capability, this is going to be strategic in a way where you need to make sure you apply it on the right character, because again, you only get one character you can bless. So make sure you pick something right. You get 20% max health and offense. You're immune to instant defeat effects, stun, and turn meter reduction. And then you assist whenever another Night Star ally uses a special ability on their turn, dealing 40% less damage. So the biggest thing here is the instant defeat immunity. So if you're going up against Master Kenobi, it feels like you have to use Blessed on Morgan Elsbeth. So when Commander Tom does her Force Leap, she can't insta-kill Morgan. It does nothing. But outside of Master Kenobi battles, it felt really good dropping Blessed on the Night Sister Spirit or even Night Sister Acolyte. We're going to talk about maybe the two downsides to this team. Things that kind of gave us a problem were things that we're kind of seeing be important to these newer teams out there. Darth Malgus seemed to be very good up against the Great Mothers. Pre-Datacrons, pre-Omicrons, that could change, of course, once you get into that whole ball game right there. And, of course, Reva. The problem is, how many things is Malgus useful against nowadays? We use Malgus so much to take down a lot of these bigger teams. You know, you use your Malgus up against, for example, Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, potentially. Or you might use them up against Gungans, potentially. Now, this is another team's like, oh, man, how do you use your Malgus appropriately? So it's so funny seeing how Malgus was a very defensive-oriented team. And now we're using him a lot on offense. Now we're having a hard time. Where the heck do I apply this guy from an offensive perspective? Reva, same thing, opening play. I just got completely nuked straight from the very get-go. But all I'm seeing right now, at least from an offensive perspective, if you can apply Blessed and Doomed in the appropriate manner, you're going to beat quite a lot of these big teams that you're going to see out there. And again, I can't endorse what the defense is like, because as we're going to see, there's a few things that are kind of, I guess, questionable, where if they don't apply Doomed correctly, we don't know how the AI takes over and decides where do you apply Doom on the opposing team. That makes all the difference. If you Doom the wrong person, the battle gets exponentially more difficult. And same thing, if you bless the wrong character, it's going to be a problem. So with that out of the way, what teams we're beating and the kind of overall arching things with Doomed as well as Blessed, I kind of want to talk about the team itself. So the biggest downside is, and again, in the grand scheme of the game, a year from now, it's not going to really matter. But right here, right now, it's kind of a thing that's on people's minds. Yes, this is basically as close as you're going to get to a legendary character. I actually wonder if these characters were slated for a legendary. I know they changed their mind. They went for Balin. I don't know. And again, this team it just blows my mind. You know, like, this team feels better than things like when Grand Inquisitor first came out. Feels better than a lot of more Conquest characters. This team is really going to disrupt that hierarchy understanding we understand between Galactic Legends, Epic Confrontations, then, you know, you got your Legendaries and Conquest units and the Marquees. This is definitely going into that Legendary territory, 1,000%. And the fact that it's only 2 Marquees, but that's the problem. Right now, it's 2 Marquees, which in the current state of time, yeah, it's kind of a lot to take in. People don't have Morgan Elsbeth and Great Mothers. I believe Morgan Elsbeth should become free-to-play farmable within the next week or two, whenever the next big update is. It's crazy how fast time flies here. In the long run, the 2 Marquees are going to be not a non-issue. Assuming they make Great Mothers farmable like they normally do for other Marquees. Again, we don't know. Just because they're an elite Marquee, we don't know if they have something else cooking. Maybe they're going to make them a little bit harder to farm. I don't know. I think just based off what I'm seeing, it's a normal Marquee event with a normal accessibility with the packs right now. I'm assuming they're going to be normal farmable. But right now, having 2 Marquees, it's going to be a lot to ask for. So I'm really wondering how this is going to be at low star, potentially at the current state of time. But I'm just putting it out there. That's the biggest downside right now. 2 marquees that people don't really have. But again, Captain Rex was a marquee just last year, and like everyone has him now. So it's kind of it's a temper issue. The other problem that might be, I'd say probably maybe a bigger pill to swallow. Our mind has been set where characters like the Acolyte, Initiate, Talia, for the longest time, they've been pretty bad with the exception of a few weird things where Acolyte was kind of cool inside the Sith Triumvirate. That was way back when. For the most part, these girls are not the most fun to use. They're not the most fun to upgrade until now. The good news is they are legacy characters, pretty easy to get up and running, and they are easier to gear up. They don't have a ton of Kyra techs to get up to gear 12, so that's the good side. But right now, people are asking me a ton. Can I use Marin? Can I use Talzin? It doesn't feel like that's going to work inside of this team. Marin, Talzin, Daka, Asajj could maybe work in here potentially. The problem is Marin, Talzin, Daka, or especially Marin and Talzin, let's say, their whole gimmick, they need people to die off on their own team to kind of supercharge their power. The problem is with these girls here, if you die, you stay dead. So you can't put Great Mothers of Talzin. The whole gimmick of Talzin fails. And Talzin and Marin, they just kind of feel out of place here because they rely on Plague. There's no Plague synergy in this team right here, which is kind of an issue for if you want to make Marin and them work. So you could try if you don't want to gear up Acolyte and Spirit, but if you read through the kits, it's very apparent that we're looking at a situation where Spirit and Acolyte are going to be the go-tos, and the last spot, Initiate and Talia, seem to be kind of the good stuff. Now, here's what I want to show before we talk about Zetas and Omicrons. I purposely did this battle incorrectly, so I was able to go after Zori normally, but I decided to pick something less ideal. I targeted Finn. And as you see, things kind of went out of hand. So it goes to show how delicate it is. I mean, still good damage, right? They're still doing some really solid damage. This was at lower relics. I recently upgraded them because I'm a big fan of this team. But it just goes to show if you're misplacing the Doomed, the Blessed potentially, the battle becomes a lot more complicated. So again, I don't know how this is going to be on defense. Maybe they're coded so they target Zori like you should. Maybe not. We don't have that intel yet. But over the next week, whenever I come back from my Arnold on the go trip, we'll probably do some defensive testing. I'm assuming some people in my shard will have this team up running. And we'll see how is this team on defense before we go into the next round of Grand Arenas and Territory Wars and all that stuff. This could be just an offensive team potentially. Hard to say. We have to kind of wait and see, but as you can see, just a little bit of misplacement of some of the status effects causes problems. Let's talk about Zetas and Omicrons real quick. 2 Zeta team, 2 Omicron team, kind of a weird split. You know, normally it's like 3 Zetas, 1 Omicron, or 3 Omicrons, you know, 1 Zeta, 2 Zetas, 2 Omicrons. The one I would highly recommend you apply first is the Energy Threads. On the Zeta ability, this gives us the opportunity to get the max health reduction, 20% max health reduction, and especially if they're going to be taking a lot of turns, you're going to quickly work through the enemy's max health. They have no protection, so it's just a matter of time before the Doomed and the max health reduction here does its job. This is by far the #1 Zeta to apply on these girls here. If you have another Zeta ready to go, I would recommend Magic Storm. It's definitely one of those Zetas where if you don't have it, okay, you can kind of wait. It's a good ability, don't get wrong. It dispels all buffs from all enemies, and Doomed enemies are inflicted with vulnerable for 2 turns. It's kind of funny. I feel like this is kind of an expensive Zeta. I mean, how many characters we have in game where their buff dispels just like an Omega or less? So they're putting it at a Zeta. A buff dispel is great, don't get me wrong. But I think if you don't have 2 Zetas ready to go, you can hold off, but I would recommend you apply the Zeta at one point in time. What's up, Kylovsky? I know we're ready to go bye-bye soon. Yeah, we're going bye-bye soon. And then we have 2 Omicrons here. Now, if you're not a fan of Territory Wars, you can just skip this part, but I think this is going to be a big deal inside of Territories. I would really recommend throwing on that Threads of Destiny. I'm sorry, the Old Ways first. This ability right here, holy cow. We got, I mean, they're both great. They are both great. All of the stuff here. Again, if you care about Territories, I would recommend these. I mean, they're both fantastic. Look at this. 30% defense, max health, 20 speed. Great Mothers gain instant feed immunity, while a Blessed ally is active, so it's giving you another layer of that right there. And then Doomed enemies have 30% reduction of the defense, their offense, and whenever Doomed enemies have defeated, all enemies are inflicted with fear. It's kind of tough. They're both really amazing. I guess, you know, reading this again, oh man, they're both just really good. Whenever vulnerable is enemies critically hit, Great Mothers and Blessed allies gain 5% to the first of any knights to their ally. Is reduced to 1% health. You dispel all debuffs on themselves. They gain Blast for 2 turns if they didn't already have them, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. And damage immunity for 1 turn, which can't be copied or prevented. Recover 100% health, 100% protection, have their cooldowns reset. This is basically like a Jedi Knight Revan a Jedi Knight Revan Savior, if more or less. That's kind of what we're seeing here. But man, boy, they're both really good. I would probably go Threads of Destiny first, I think, if I had to pick, man. They're both fantastic. This team is fantastic. And I want to remind you one more time, I know Morgan Elsbeth has kind of been a little snoozy for the past couple weeks. She's been in game. However, she also has an Omicron on her ability here. If you're looking to make them a little bit better in Grand, which, man, they're already looking great without having that Grand Rid Omicron. As you can see right here, with that Grand Rid Omicron, you get the stagger to target enemy for 2 turns, expose all enemies, and inflict them with the buff immunity. Buff immunity is going to be great, especially with all the buff dispels that Knight Sister Spirit has, for example. If the target enemy is inflicted defense down, Knight Sister allies deal additional 5% damage, and the cooldowns of their abilities is decreased by 1. Then all Knight Sister allies gain Frenzy for 1 turn and protection up. This is going to be a good Omicron. This would be a good. For me, personally, I'm more biased towards Grand Rid, as we all know. I would rather apply this one first. But I don't want to undersell the fact that in Territory Wars, I think the Great Mothers are going to be really darn great. So that's kind of our initial impressions right now. Overall, the overwhelming sentiment of the people that were with me during the test, which, by the way, big thanks to all of you guys for coming and watching me. Well, I'm on the go here. It was an amazing time. The overall sentiment was this is basically like a top-tier character. This is, again, feels like a legendary character that you're getting in the package of a normal marquee. So, there's a different hierarchies. You have Captain Rex, which, don't get me wrong, Captain Rex, I think, was the best character to come out last year. This is a different one. This is like a step above a Captain Rex, where it lifts a dead faction, the leftover Night Sisters, but it's in a legendary-ish status, where it's able to perform in a legendary way. Don't get me wrong, though, Captain Rex is still amazing, but this has that extra step above that. For me, people kept asking me, about whether they should whale on this character. Do what you want to do with your own money. I will say, though, I always use this analogy. If you are someone that only wails on like one character a year, you want to treat yourself, I don't know, birthday gift, Christmas gift, I don't know, you're just having a good day, it's a good year, I don't know. This would be the one character I would wail on in 2024. In 2023, it would have been Captain Rex at that point. Overall, very impressed. Let's see what this character has to offer on defense. And until we meet again, my friends, always remember that it's great to be in the Empire today. I don't have the song, but I'll try to do it. We are the sisters of the night. The night, oh yeah, the sisters of the night. Bye.